Placed squarely in the middle of the Alberta-Saskatchewan border lies Cold Lake. One of the deepest lakes in either of the provinces, Cold Lake is known for its sport fishing, marine recreation, and oddly enough, legendary characters. This isn't just the hometown of one of Marvel's most popular characters, Wolverine, it's also host to a creature that swallows men whole and rips their canoe to pieces. A spiteful monster of the lake that turns lustful men into a midnight snack. Let's dive into the Kinosu. The legend seems to have entered English lore sometime in the late 19th century, despite the first written record of the myth that we could find being published in 1966. According to the legend, a young Dene man had fallen in love with a woman who lived on the other side of the massive 200 square kilometer lake. He was an adept fisherman and would canoe the lake often both for recreation and to catch his supper. He was also quite astute and would listen to the warnings of his elders. Do not go into the deepest parts of the lake, they told him. Stay near the shallows. The warning wasn't without reason. Cold Lake is known for its bout of high winds that can whip up some fairly rocky water. And even to the most experienced canoeer, these conditions can spell disaster. However, it wasn't entirely the wind that was the cause of concern. A skeleton had been found on the river's edge. The vertebrae were the size of a human head, and the bones were as thick as tree trunks. It's reported its rib cage was as wide and tall as a buffalo bull. Clearly lurking in the dark depths of the lake, there lay a massive behemoth of a fish. Wisdom gets trumped by a young lover's frenzy, and on a moonless night, this young man needed to see his lover. As he approached the western shore, he was met by owls who would frantically send out hoots. A supposed warning sign that the Kinosu was on the hunt. He paid no mind to them and began to paddle. He had crossed the lake from west to east many times during the day with little to no issue. He knew the lake like the back of his hand. What's the worst that could happen? As he approached the eastern shore, a faint light could be seen from his lover's camp. He was almost there, and his excitement took a hold of him. His paddling became more and more frantic, like a fish splashing in a net, trying to escape. Suddenly, a fanged mouth lunged from below him, smashing the canoe in half and swallowing him whole. The man was never seen again. And even more tales would emerge. One elder would speak of a summer in the 1840s when he and a few friends were picnicking on a beach. They stopped to watch a moose take a swim in the lake to cool off. All was fine until the moose gave out a great cry and began to panic. Just as it reached the shore, a 12-meter-long fish leapt from the water and grabbed the moose's back legs, dragging it into the depths. The group fled, but returned the next day to find a massive fish beached on the shore. He vividly recalls the smell of the carcass as being one of the worst things he's ever smelt. He said if the devil had a scent, it surely would be that. The last sighting I could find on record was in the 1970s. Lyle McKee, a postman for the municipality, was doing his route when he spotted what looked like a fish surfacing in the water. Its head had been the size of a horse's, and he scrambled to grab his binoculars to get a better look. But by the time he pulled his truck over, the fish was gone, sunken into the depths once again. The legend of the Kinosu would be a huge draw for the Cold Lake municipality. Sportsmen and anglers would come to try to catch the legendary cryptid. In the 1930s, even more bones washed up on shore, causing speculation that the Kinosu had been hit by a boat and killed. The University of Alberta even used penetrating radar to try to get to the bottom of the mystery, but nothing ever materialized on their reports. The legend still remains, and it has permeated Cold Lake culture. Its name has been borrowed by associations, ski hills, beaches, and businesses. Its likeness has been used in marketing and logos. The Cold Lake Fishing Derby, formerly the Kinosu Fishing Derby, is held yearly with prizes for the largest catch, each angler hoping to snatch the mythical beast out of the water. Yet, much like Loch Ness or Ogopogo, nothing concrete has ever been found other than bones. So let's get into the possible explanations for those bones. I'm not sure what actually is more frightening, the legend or the possible truth, but if you're squeamish about drowning, now is the time to check out of this video. For those not accustomed to northern Canadian winter, it gets cold. Really, really cold. Cold enough that your bare skin will freeze solid in less than 10 minutes. In fact, most things will freeze solid in even less time than that, like water. Thankfully, ice is less dense than liquid water, so when it drops to -30, a thick layer of ice will build on the top of lakes and rivers to insulate the fish as they swim around in the depths. Now typically, you can skate and walk on this sheet ice. Heck, you can even drive a car or build a house on it if it's cold enough. But occasionally, if there's been a Chinook or a few warm days, the protective sheet will melt and get pretty thin. This is fine for humans who can monitor and warn each other, but for heavier wildlife like moose, deer, or elk, it's all up to instinct, and that instinct can be interrupted. There are horrific displays you can find in the dead of winter of ruminants that have been locked into protracted battle. They had brought their fight onto the lake, only for the ice to give way and the locked pair to sink, dooming each other to mutually assured drowning. With no hands to grasp at the ice's edge, the pair would sink into the dark depths as the hole they burst through quickly ices over in a matter of minutes, locking them in a frozen coffin. Throughout the winter, the bodies of these combatants would be picked clean by the fish. Then in the summer, their bones would float to the surface and be washed ashore onto the beach, which would explain the massive vertebrae and rib cages that were found in all of the tails. The other explanation is that fish, when unrestrained by a large body of water like Cold Lake, tend to grow to the size of their environment. Sturgeon can be found in Alberta lakes, and the largest one caught in Canada was 3.5 meters long and weighed 400 kilograms. If the drawings of the Kinosu are to be believed, the folks who saw it say it looked an awful lot like a sturgeon. Regardless of how you rationalize it, the Kinosu legend seems to be here to stay. Maybe one day, this behemoth white hunchback of a fish will be uncovered, but until then, beware of Cold Lake after dark. Thanks for watching.